What's up, everybody? Anthony here, Reflection Concept, reflectionconcept.com. Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I want to compare two basses, one of which I've shown on this channel before, and one is a brand new addition to my collection. And if you follow the Empire Music channel, you might have a good idea of what that bass is. So the first one, I showed this in some videos, specifically a video, I don't know, maybe about 6 months ago, right when I got it. This is the Joe Dart signature bass. It's sterling, so it's like the import line from Ernie Ball Music Man. Excellent bass. Really, really strong value. I believe when I got this, it was $399. Can't say enough good things about this. And the other one I want to show you. If you follow the Empire channel, like I said, you're probably not surprised to see this here at my house. This is the Pino Palladino Stingray, USA made, Ernie Ball Music Man. Price on this street, $34.99. So let's just call it a $3,000 difference on the basses. We're going to listen to this in two tracks, one of which is like up-tempo, staccato kind of funk thing. The other's a more spacious and open, a little bit more set for melodic playing, longer notes, right? So we want to hear really the sonic differences between the two instruments. Little spoiler, they're both really, really nice. They both have their merits. The Joe Dart, just having that single volume knob on it, no tone, obviously that's a little bit more one-dimensional. You're really only getting what it wants to give you right out of the box. You can move your hand around a little bit. But I'm finding that when I'm playing something in the Music Man line or the Stingray line, we'll call it, even though that Joe Dart's a slightly different body shape, playing over the pickup is really kind of where I like to be right now. And these are still kind of a new experience to me, is getting acquainted here with the Stingray thing or the Music Man vibe. But they both have their sonic merits. The Pino obviously is more versatile because it has the 2-band EQ on it, boost only, and it's only a 2-band, not modern 3-band. And some of the differences in the pickup too. So this is an Alnico 5 magnet. The Joe Dart that I showed you and that I've talked about before has a ceramic magnet in it. You're definitely going to hear some of those principles. The ceramic magnet is, I think, always going to be just a brighter magnet, have a little bit more top end, a little bit more brash and brittle top end to it. Maple fretboard, rosewood fretboard on it. Strings, very, very similar. Not the same though. The Joe Dart I have strung with Labella low tension flats. The Pino has the stock, the signature Pino flats on it. These are a slightly lighter gauge, but they're both low tension flats. So I think they're very similar, and the strings feel very similar when playing it. Now, I'll say this too. On the Joe Dart, I had Aaron Hutzel, our tech at Empire, do not a lot of work to it, but like the fret edges were taken care of. They weren't great right out of the box. It needed a pretty substantial setup on it, especially after the winter months here in Pittsburgh. The fret ends got really sharp on that, and that neck, the action got really high on it. So just speaking from a qualitative standpoint, I wouldn't expect the same maintenance or the same attention to maintenance to be there on the USA. Although any bass, I don't care if it's $1,200 or $12,000, needs to be maintained from a humidity perspective. We talk about that and we see it all the time at the shop. I'll say this too, the playing experience just from a fit and finish and feel is highly elevated on the Pino bass here. This feels more like a professional instrument, not taking anything away from the Joe Dart. That's a very, very nice instrument. And it's a lot better with a little bit of work after the fact to make it more playable. but it feels like an import instrument. And here, this is a much more elegant feeling instrument to me. And I do enjoy playing the Pino bass more than the Joe Dart. But this is really just how do we interpret the sonic differences? And maybe you out there like the Joe Dart more when you hear it in those tracks. I'd love to know your opinion on the two, and keep two things in mind. On a surface level, what do you like sonically more, right? And what do you think about that price difference? Do you hear $3,000 worth of difference in it? Obviously, you out there can't be here feeling these instruments. Maybe you've had you're as lucky as I am that have had a chance to play both of them. I would love to know your interpretation of that. But feel free to leave a comment. Always love the discussion on it. What do you think sounds better? Where would you spend your money? What would you put that into? So let's check out the tracks. All right, so you heard there on the more up-tempo, kind of staccato, funky sort of track, that the brightness of that ceramic pickup and the maple fretboard on the Joe Dart really provided some punch to it. I definitely sensed, even in playing it and listening back to it, you do have a warmer, wider, rounder sound coming out of the Pino. Alnico 5 magnets and a rosewood fretboard. You should have that. I failed to mention at the beginning of the video too, I had the EQ on that relatively flat. I had bass and treble both boosted on the Pino. I've found with the 2-band EQs, when you don't have a tone knob, if you just accentuate that bass past treble, any amount really starts to manipulate the sound of the instrument as if it were a tone knob. So the further past the treble you go with the bass, the more it starts to round out and muffle out, kind of the way that a tone knob does. Now, let's hear it in a more spacious track. A little bit more room for the bass to play, longer notes, a more, taking a more melodic approach to the instrument. All right, and there, in that track, more space. I had some reverb on that, and I had a little bit of saturation coming from very, very light overdrive on both. You could hear it a little bit more on the Pino bass, probably because I had that low end extended a little bit more than what you're getting out of the passive Joe Dart bass. But there, again, you heard the same sonic principles that, you know, were coming out in the more staccato playing, the more up playing. But that the Pino bass really, I think, sat better in that mix than the Joe Dart, because how round and warm, you know, if I really have to distill it down, and this makes sense again with the type of fretboard, obviously maple versus rosewood, and the type of magnet in the pickup, ceramic in the Joe Dart, Alnico 5 in the Pino. The Joe Dart's sharp, right? If it just the way that those notes look in my head, very sharp. You know, there's an angled point on that, cutting, piercing. It kind of makes sense because I find Joe's tone that way, and I love it in Wolfpack. And I think it fits so beautifully. And I love that about that bass. When I want it, it's there, and it's great. And it's $399, or was $399. I think the newest crop on the Joe Darts are a little bit more, but might come with a case. Not sure on that. But the Pino's round. How do I make round here? Yeah, round. That is, it sits better to me. So when I want that, I know I can access that with the Pino. I do like the Pino more. I've said this before in maybe videos on here, certainly on the Empire channel. I'm a snob when it comes to that stuff. So when I get my hands on the better made, the better quality bass, I generally do enjoy that a little bit more. So I, again, would love to know what you think out there. What sounded better to you? Why did it sound better to you? Where would you spend your money? Would you want to save the $3,000 and still get a high-performing bass on something like the Joe Dart? Or would you want the more elevated feel experience, the extra few layers of, well, not just a few, a lot more versatility out of the Pino bass? They're both awesome. I'm very lucky to have both here and to be able to shoot a video like this and to kind of demonstrate the sounds with the instruments and what I like about the basses, where I don't really find any shortcomings in either one of them. And we think about shortcomings with the import, like the Joe Dart bass, it's rock solid. I guess the only shortcoming is that it's a little bit one-dimensional on it. But I love that Pino. I'm really, really in love with that bass and can't wait to gig on that. So again, feel free to leave a comment. Let's discuss it below. Please subscribe to the channel. I forgot to say that at the top. Usually I hammer that one because I want to get this subscriber count. I'm so close to 1,000. Please, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so. Greatly, greatly appreciate it. Thanks for watching the video. We'll see you next time.